Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chasing a Murder. Today, I have a very interesting topic, something I know you guys are very interested in, especially those of you following the Lori Vallow case. Just recently, we watched two trials. Charles Vallow and Brandon Boudreaux both fly by, it seems, but there was something missing in those trials. In fact, a lot of people and witnesses that we expected to show up at these trials, well, they weren't there. And at Brandon Boudreaux's trial, well, we got the surprise hint that Treena Kay, the prosecuting attorney on the case, said that Brandon Boudreaux's ex-wife, Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski, while she was still being investigated, basically. Her case is still open. For what? Well, for the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. If you're not familiar with this story, please check out Life Beyond the Grave and many of my other videos that cover the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and Charles Vallow, Tylee Ryan, JJ Vallow, all these people attached to this case. Now, Lori Vallow has found guilty all three trials. I'm going to have to skip all the information on these trials. I'll have to assume that you guys followed this case. Otherwise, we will go into another video that is an hour long. Now, people were surprised at Brandon Boudreaux's trial because we did not see Ian Pawlowski, who married Brandon's ex-wife, Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski. We didn't see Melanie Gibb, Zulema, who we know basically has made a deal with prosecutors. We watched Melanie Boudreaux testify at Chad Daybell's trial. We also witnessed Ian Pawlowski testify a few times. But we did not see Melanie actually testify but once, which was quite shocking considering how involved she was with this case. For those of us following the case that threw up red flags, we're thinking, what's going on? So you can only guess, but we have some good guesses here. During Brandon Boudreaux's trial, we waited to see who the witnesses would be, for the prosecutors mainly, and even the defender, Lori Vallow. We did not get a chance to see Melanie Gibb testify again, Zulema, and we didn't see Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski. In fact, we didn't see a lot of people that we thought we might see on that stand, and that includes people like Ian, friends of Brandon's. And you got to remember, we saw Melanie testify at Chad's, well, she and her husband Ian testify at Chad's trial. And Judge Boyd pointed out the fact that he had some concerns that maybe their attorney sitting in the on the bench, seated with the rest of the public watching the trial, he was pointed out and accused or suspected of giving some guidance during Melanie and Ian's testimony. And in fact, he was kicked out of the court. As we watched them testify, it was easy to see that the two were not telling the entire truth. And because of that, I wondered if they did have some kind of deal with the prosecutors, either in Idaho or Arizona, would prosecutors, not want to make this deal any longer and spare Melanie or Ian? If ever there was a deal, were they just testifying to attempt to stay out of trouble? We don't know. We just know that their deal on the stand wasn't that great. They just didn't seem to really help anyone. So I wondered, did Treena Kay say, you know what, we're going to delay this plea deal to ensure that they testify truthfully and completely, which they didn't do, hoping that she's smart enough to know that these two, they're not going to help, they're not going to do the right thing because they should be behind bars too. Most everyone who knows this case believe that Melanie Boudreaux, Melanie Gibb, and Zulema, all three of them should not be walking the streets. And maybe the fact that we didn't see Melanie testify at Brandon Boudreaux's trial, could that be a sign that there's something more going on? Well, she did tell us, yes, we're looking, we still have her case open, and we're watching her, we're building this case. So her not testifying or being a witness, well, that makes more sense. In other words, the witness is now a defendant. The prosecutor had to figure out, is their testimony going to be reliable? Will it be consistent? In which it wasn't. Who remembers the interview Melanie Boudreaux did? It's one of the first interviews where she and Ian both lied like there was no tomorrow. I also wonder, since we know both Melanie and Ian are lawyered up, if they were demanding unreasonable exchange for their testimony. To be honest, if Melanie had testified, it would have most likely damaged the prosecutor's case more than helped. It would have opened doors that they could never close again. Again, referring to Melanie Boudreaux's interviews with media, there's no doubt in my mind that there would be conflicting statements that would actually, sorry, excuse me, guys, I'm tired, hurt her case. So who knows? It's probably a little bit of all of the above. Now let's talk about some things that we haven't talked about much, and that is the fact that Brandon Boudreaux had friends that knew a lot more than most of us do that was happening behind the scenes, yet they were not on the stand. It makes you wonder if Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski's case is still open. If they're about to take that to trial, will we have a huge witness list that full of people we probably haven't heard from before, and then some? Now, we have heard a few names. I'm going to try not to use too many names right now. I don't want to totally mess this case up if it's going to happen. There are friends that were mutual friends between Melanie and her husband, Brandon, in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Melanie testified that she really wasn't into the vibrations and things like that, like everyone else in this group. But that's not what a mutual friend says. She says all of this kind of stems back to 2017, 2018, going into 2019. That there's a possibility that Melanie was very interested in the energy healing, like what Julie Rowe was teaching during that time. She also says that she noticed that several people were using pendulums. They were in contact with spirits, searching for spiritual answers and guidance. She did an interview with another reporter, this friend of Melanie's, and said that she couldn't tell us exactly everything she knew right now, but she definitely knew stuff that a lot of people did not know, which makes me think that she may and could be a witness if Melanie Pawlowski is taken to court, to trial. Melanie also told her friend that about the Preparing the People conferences. She told Melanie, she would look at the pamphlet, but didn't really say much else about it. She did mention she did attend a few workshops. That was in 2018. And as 2019 arrives, she says 2018 was quiet. Though they were going to meetings, they were listening to these podcasts. It was really 2019 when things really started to heat up and become a problem. She said that most people thought that these podcasts and these conferences weren't a big deal. But we're not certain whether or not she realized that people like Chad Gabo were telling people, look, there's some devastation just ahead. You need to move to Rexburg, the only place where it will be safe. She gave us hints that people like Lori's nephew, who was living with her at the time, Zach Cox, Charles Vallow and others, well, there was a lot of talk going on about the concern of Lori's interest in these podcasts, these conferences, and the big change in her attitude towards Charles and other family members. What people don't realize is Charles, before he was shot and murdered, he had reached out to a lot of people within that circle you don't know about. And they know a lot more than we've ever heard. There's a lot more to the story we've not heard. And Charles spent a lot of time on the phone talking to friends, family, friends of friends, trying to do something about Lori. And though there's this huge drama circle going on within this group of people about Lori Vallow's actions and interests and her threatening to attack Charles, they didn't really take it that seriously, they said, because when she said she was going to destroy Charles, they thought, well, this is going to be like in a financial way. So this gives you an idea, though you have all these people, they know Lori's acting strange. It's not just Charles Vallow. There's a lot of people involved in this drama network. And it's built by Lori. She is the modem. She's the router. Created these web of lies. And wow. I mean, people just really don't know how serious it will get just months from now. And I don't understand how, you couldn't see it. Well, you got to remember that Charles Vallow wasn't gone yet. He's still alive. Now, though we know these people know Lori Vallow, they say, well, we never thought that she was going to be violent. But these people also don't mention if they know Lori's past with other people that are not on her good side. She says she just really didn't see that, not until after Charles was shot. In fact, this friend says she didn't even know that Charles' life was threatened, not this particular friend, until after he was gone. So this is going to be kind of a lot of hearsay because she's talking to Brandon Boudreaux on the phone and probably getting a scoop there, maybe a little bit to Melanie Boudreaux at the time. But she does admit that right before Charles was killed, that people were very, very worried. So she kind of contradicts herself there. So if there's going to be a trial for Melanie Pawlowski, is she going to be a witness? I'm not certain because she kind of falls back and forth here on what she says. So she does admit that she gets a lot of her information from Zach from watching interviews. So she's getting a lot of her information from the news media and probably YouTube videos and things like that. But according to this witness, she says that she did get information, and it would be hearsay. Brandon called her husband after Charles Vallow was shot. They knew that Brandon and Melanie were separating. Melanie was moving out. Brandon was packing. Now, the reason why I wanted to share this and kind of introduce you to her, because there's a chance she could be a witness. She said after they heard Charles was shot, they were told that it was in self-defense and that Alex Cox had shot Charles. But she said immediately after hearing that, no one believed this. And what's important about this is the fact that the investigators, how long it took them to even do something on the suspicions of these several people. It's now not only Brandon Boudreaux and Kay that have concerns. There's a lot of people saying that they don't believe that Alex Cox shot Charles Vallow in self-defense. So remember, this is important to understand because Brandon Boudreaux has not been shot at yet. So here's another clue that she could be a witness. She says that Brandon told her and her husband that he was scared and that he believed that he could be next. So that gives you an idea that Brandon Boudreaux suspected that he could be shot at. And by who? Well, the Cox family. So if they take Melanie Pawlowski to trial and they charge her, um, there's going to be a few people that seem to be reliable witnesses in the case. Sounds like so far that they can even testify to the fact that they believe she could have took part in a lot of things that happened during 2019 with this group of people. Even more alarming is she admits that with Tylee and JJ, which was Lori kids who have been murdered, they found them buried in her lover's backyard, Chad Daybell. She's been convicted for that. That maybe CPS should have been a little bit more involved. At least she gives a hint towards that. Now remember, after Charles Vallow was shot, a lot of us had concerns about the investigation and the investigators on this case, and still are. We still have concerns. She said back then, when she did this interview, which was 3 years ago, that they had concerns about whether or not they were investigating this case for several months. So you have a man that's been shot, another man that's scared. You have 2 children being drugged all over this nation in suitcases. Charles Vallow has already told them, I have concerns for these kids. It's been recorded on police body cam, and they're taking their time. She says it's in October. She learns, after getting a phone call, that Brandon Boudreaux was shot at and survived. Now, at first, she said she wasn't sure about doing this. Her husband wants to help Brandon, let him spend the night there. And she says she's not really certain if she wants to do that because, that could place her family in danger. And she says she thought about it. She told him, yeah, if you sneak him in. She tried to describe what Brandon looked like, and he looked awful. She said, well, you can go back and watch the Dr. Phil interviews with Brandon Boudreaux, and you can see what she was talking about. He was pale. He looked like he had been traumatized, even months and months and months after that attack. It's not until recently that you're starting to see color fill his face again.
He looked like a ghost. He looked like he was going to break.
So that's the witness. She's trying to describe what she saw the night Brandon come to spend the night. He brought his 4 children there. And here he is, in this horrible mess, because he doesn't have any family or anything there. He's desperate for help. He's scared. He's devastated. So I couldn't imagine. Okay, guys, we're already into 18 minutes here. So what I wanted to initially talk about, but I wanted you to hear one of the potential witnesses and what she knows. But I could do more. We'll do it maybe later. My son is having some struggles with his health, so I'm a little tired and I'm running out of time that I can put into these. But I wanted to talk about the fact that what kind of witnesses, what kind of deals did Melanie Gibb make and Salima? Are we going to see if Melanie Pawlowski is charged? She has to go to trial. Most likely, do you think, and I want you guys to answer this in comments and we'll share it in a video, do you think that Melanie Gibb and Salima will testify against Melanie Pawlowski? Now, Melanie has tried to play innocent during all this, that she wasn't part of a cult, that she had no ill will intentions for her, at the time, estranged husband, Brandon Boudreaux. But I think there's going to be witnesses that's going to tell you otherwise. People like Melanie Gibb and Salima and this lady. Now, we've already talked about the fact that Melanie Boudreaux was arrested. Now, after Brandon Boudreaux was shot, she took off, right? She moved. By Halloween, see, Brandon was shot the 2nd of October, and by the end of October, she was heading to Idaho. Moved in next door to her aunt, Lori. She got this nice lump sum from where they sold their house. She was barely there a few weeks before she was dating Ian Pawlowski. And they weren't even together or dating very long. In fact, it wasn't even but a few weeks before they got married. Right after they got married, Ian Pawlowski, his family, his ex-wife, Natalie, they learned from Brandon Boudreaux that there was a chance that Ian was running into a storm. Here's the thing is, Ian Pawlowski at first seemed like he wanted to help. It didn't take long before he changed his mind and turned his back on the FBI and everyone else, including his own family. Now, Melanie and Ian Pawlowski get married, and I'll go more into details in Life Beyond the Grave. You need to check that out, guys, if you haven't. What is it? The day they got married, or that night rather, instead of enjoying the honeymoon and rolling in love, she was busy filling Ian's head with concerns about safety of children and their family. According to Ian's description, because really what I believe the truth is, and this is my opinion, is that Ian was going to go with anything Melanie had to say. He was so in love. So instead of Melanie most likely telling him about, this is what's going on, these kids are zombies, it possibly could have been later on him turning this into a way to make her look innocent by saying that she had concerns but didn't come out with it. Ian even claimed later on that Melanie was unsure about things and events this group was involved in. Yet she was giving investigators and police a difficult time. She was not volunteering any information. I'm not joking, guys. Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski had multiple chances to talk to investigators, police, and not once did she mention any concerns for anyone. She was too busy pointing the finger at Brandon Boudreaux and making him look like whatever she wanted him to look like. It wasn't anything good, that's for certain. She was brutal to Brandon. Brandon made sure that he made this process as easy as possible, including the money, splitting the house, all these things. And in my opinion, all she did was lie and create devastation for Brandon and her own children. Now, at first, Ian Pawlowski said he had concerns about the safety of Tylee and JJ in November 2019. But if you watch interviews, they'll say later that the police were just making this all up and making it look like something it wasn't. And the reason why they told police that they had concerns was because they felt pressured. It just gives you an idea of what kind of people you're dealing with here. A lot of people want to think that Ian Pawlowski is the good guy here. In my opinion, Ian Pawlowski he's either equal to Melanie or even more manipulative than Melanie. You gotta remember, guys, during Lori Vallow's trial, Melanie Pawlowski was subpoenaed, but she ultimately did not end up taking the stand. Basically, she's been implicated in this case actually through her association with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, who have both been convicted for their crimes. And if you look for the reasoning as to why Melanie didn't testify in Lori Vallow's trial, you're not going to find anything. You see this photo of Melanie right here? This right here tells you right there, there's this different side to this woman right here. In my opinion, she is the younger version of Lori Daybell. And I had huge concerns about the kids being under her care. It terrifies me because we watch as the CPS neglected Tylee and JJ. There was these horrific things going on within this family, and there was nothing being done about it. And in my opinion, I hope that Treena Kay, if she's going to do this, that she will go through with it quickly as she can. Guys, I attempted to do this video. I attempted to write a script. I don't know how it went because I'm kind of getting lost here because I'm just overwhelmingly tired. But it did, help take my mind off some things that I did want to take my mind off of. And before I close out, I want to say share your comments and your thoughts below so I can share them in a video. Tell me what you think. Do you think Melanie Boudreaux Pawlowski and Ian, how do you feel about their characters? What's their intentions? Are they manipulators? Are they liars? Or are they telling the truth? Keep in mind, guys, that this is my opinion based off of my research. It's not just my opinion. It's also opinions. I read people's comments, and I also put them in here, though it doesn't have a name with it. A lot of times when I say we looked or that sort of thing, it's because I'm referencing comments. Don't forget about these girls that continue to go missing, especially Summer Wells now. If you've been following the Summer Wells case, go check it out. There's some interesting things going on. It's making you wonder what is going on in Tennessee with these children. There's something not right about this case. And I'm starting to catch up on my research on this. It's just hard to do because Candace, they don't trust anyone because they were taking, oh my God, it was just crazy what they went through trying to get help to find their child, having to dodge drama. Not to mention they're a family that was going through their own crisis. If you don't mind, guys, you can donate one time to Patreon. I think I keep forgetting to ever say that. If you want to, you can subscribe, which will help, or like or share and comment. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.